Thank you, Ananke Literature Festival, for inviting me to share my thoughts. I've been asked many times why publishing or what's the story here. Last year, around the time I had published 4 titles, a book publicist asked me, "Did they allow you to become a publisher?" And my first question was, "Who are they?" And then I thought, who's anyone to allow me to do anything? But perhaps that question reveals something larger. There's a perception that publishing is the domain of a cultural elite. Every profession has gatekeepers, people who decide who remains invisible, who deserves attention. And publishing sits precisely on that fault line. But it is also an act of unmasking, and that is what I'm going to talk about today. But before I start, I want to make a confession. I did not become a publisher because I had a grand business plan. I became one because I simply love reading. I grew up in army cantonments across India. I hardly ever got to complete one full academic year in one school. And I lived mostly in places with no roads, no markets, forget libraries. I was homeschooled till the age of 7, but I managed to devour books or anything that had words on it. Shampoo bottles, instruction labels, old newspapers, my mother's magazines, anything. I simply loved reading. I still have books I had at the age of 10, and they have survived moving house with me close to 30 times. Also, I was very good at spotting errors. I still am. And it's funny that it has become my job today, finding anomalies in stories. I'm a first-generation entrepreneur. Before I studied publishing, I had studied hospitality and tourism. These fields on the surface have very little in common, but both are connected by one very powerful core idea: the art of making people feel valued. When done well, publishing is also about service. Long before you open a book, someone has been preparing. Writers, editors, designers, illustrators, proofreaders, typesetters, printers. That is why I think that publishing, more than transactions, is about trust. Yes, it is a business, and yes, we must understand markets, but if that is all it becomes, then books are no different from any other product. Books are not consumed in the same way that we consume goods. Books protect imagination, books protect wonder, books protect memory. Today there is content everywhere. Attention spans are next to nothing. Algorithms decide what you see and what you engage with. AI has increased efficiency exponentially. You can self-publish your work on social media. Digital platforms have liberalized access. It is tempting in moments like these to frame publishing as a battle between tradition and innovation. But the greatest fault lines in publishing are not between the old and the new. They're between people and systems. They're between process and haste, between technology and judgment, between whose stories travel across borders and whose remain untranslated, between what is profitable and what is important, and perhaps most significantly, between speed and stillness. That is what I wish to speak about today. People, process, and technology in publishing, and the grace of time. Books pass through an extraordinary community of people who will never appear in credits. Booksellers, publicists, distributors, librarians, festival organizers, reviewers, teachers, parents. Publishing has always been less an industry and more an ecosystem. The irony, of course, is that when everything works perfectly, no one notices. But maybe that's how it should be. Excellence should be seamless. Growing up in the army taught me one lesson that continues to shape the way I think. I grew up around people who believed that nothing was impossible. Teamwork was a way of life, and subpar work was not tolerated. It was almost like the difference between life and death. And that was the essence of my hospitality training as well. Don't think you're too big for small jobs. You do not say no to anything. You learn it and you make it happen. Teamwork and unwavering commitment, that is the ethos I have carried into my work as a publisher as well. In my work, I have two main concerns: protecting quality and rewarding authenticity. If people are the heart of publishing, then process is its spine. One of the greatest privileges of independent publishing is that we get to obsess over details, and I surely do. Sometimes far more than is practical or sensible. There are times when authors have made Instagram stories mocking my constant revisions, all in good fun, of course. But refinement is important to me, and it applies to manuscripts, design, workflows, because readers are remarkably perceptive. They sense it when you're giving it your all. So it's a deeply human exchange. Speaking of which, I would now discuss machines. So, are machines going to replace writers, editors, artists? Every major shift in technology, cinema, television, the internet, it was described as the end of something. Instead, each became the beginning of something else. AI undoubtedly has changed publishing. It can help us research, transcribe, translate, automate, optimize. It can produce book covers, it can edit for us, it can generate layouts. So it is remarkable. But publishing decisions are rarely technical. They are human decisions. They are aesthetic, ethical, moral decisions. The larger question is not whether AI can create, whether AI can write. It is who decides what gets read. When machines shape visibility, publishing has an even greater responsibility. It is to protect surprise, to protect originality, to protect dissent. And let's not confuse speed with wisdom. Literature is created through careful consideration, through deliberation. I am constantly told that Bare Bones needs to increase its footprint. But I believe that I'm in the business of excellence, not scaling up. I'll give you an example. Much before Hermes did so, I made sure that the Bare Bones website had original hand-drawn illustrations. A step like that may not affect our P&L, but it speaks to the book lover in me. One of the joys of being a publisher is that I get to follow the process of an artist, to observe how their minds work, and a machine cannot replicate that. Algorithms are good at recognizing patterns, but literature succeeds by breaking those patterns. It succeeds by seeing old things in new ways and new things in familiar ways. The future of publishing lies in allowing humans and machines to do what they do best. Let technology take care of repetitive tasks. Let humans remain in charge of curiosity, of wonder. To sum up, people give publishing its purpose. Processes bring discipline. Technology brings possibilities, and time, it gives it perspective. In storytelling, time can mean many things: historical time, the duration of the story, the time of day, the pacing. For a storyteller, time is an ally. As they say, rest a story, come back to it with fresh eyes. So waiting lets you correct your mistakes, to see what truly matters, to find the right rhythm. We live in an age when swiftness is seen as a virtue. Instant messages, instant replies, instant success, instant gratitude, instant gratification. We are encouraged to consume faster, to move on faster. Books ask us to do exactly the opposite, to ask us to slow down, to ask us to notice, to stay with an idea a little longer, to live inside someone's imagination a little longer. And that is what I mean by the grace of time. Books find readers when it is the right time. You cannot rush that. A book that sells modestly upon release may become a classic 10 years later. It may shape a generation without ever appearing on a bestseller list. A poem written at a dark moment in solitude may comfort someone long after the poet is gone. Many people imagine patience as passive, but it is not. Patience, I feel, is active faith. It is continuing to refine a manuscript after everyone else thinks it is finished. It is commissioning one more illustration because the story deserves it. It is investing in a new writer who has a voice but not a story yet. It is choosing legacy over popularity. Perhaps publishing's greatest contribution cannot always be measured. Independent publishers, particularly across the wider global south, often work with limited resources but extraordinary conviction. They champion voices that large commercial systems often overlook. They remind us that publishing in many ways is cultural stewardship. When we decide which stories deserve to be printed, translated, and documented, we are participating in a much larger project. We help future generations understand who we were. That is an extraordinary privilege. It is also an extraordinary responsibility. That brings me back to where I began. The 7-year-old who could spend days staring at the same page of a Chacha Chaudhary or a Pinky, who marveled at the depth of language in a P.K. De Sarkar grammar book, who felt understood by a vintage copy of Good Housekeeping. From finding companionship in books to becoming someone who makes them, I don't think that is an accident. Every book I publish is an act of gratitude. Gratitude to the people who wrote before us. So every society is stronger when more voices are heard. Publishing that way is an act of unmasking, as I've said before. Literature cannot erase history, or it cannot prevent conflict, but it can reveal what has been hidden, what has been suppressed. As we explore the fault lines that shape our communities, I hope we also remember that every fault line is an opening to listen more carefully, to question more honestly, and to imagine more generously. Thank you.